If you read your Sunday newspapers, you'll see there's much talk of me doing deals with the Conservative Party. Many years ago, sir, they were a very, very successful political organisation, but sadly, they betrayed the country with open-door immigration, with increased taxes, with not delivering Brexit, and they are now going to become a party of history, sir, because we are going to replace them. So let me be clear. If you do a deal with somebody, and perhaps I'm old school, because I believe that my word is my bond, all right? But if I shake someone's hand and do a deal, I look into their eyes and I do the deal on the basis that I trust the person that I'm doing a deal with. I made, I think, a very magnanimous gesture as leader of the Brexit Party back in 2019. When I said we would stand down in 320 seats to give Boris a clear run to get in and get Brexit done. And it was the right thing to do at the time. It may not feel like it today, but it was, I think, a moment to put the interests of the country before the interests of myself or the interests of the party. And it was the right thing to do. But with a majority of 80, do you know what? They didn't even say thank you, which shows you what low-grade human beings most of them are. And they betrayed everything about Brexit. Brexit was about taking back control of our borders. Brexit was about reducing the numbers coming into our country. Brexit was about getting rid of excessive legislation that ties up so much of the time and effort and money of the 5.5 million people out there, men and women, that run small businesses. Brexit was about re-establishing confidence in who we were as a country. None of it was delivered, and I will not be doing deals with any individuals or any party that I view to be dishonourable and undeserving of ever being in government again in any capacity.
Nigel Farage's speech is a scathing denunciation of the Conservative Party, portraying them as a once successful political force that has now descended into betrayal and irrelevance. His rhetoric is built around the idea that the Conservatives have abandoned their core principles and, in doing so, have failed the British people. He highlights key areas where he believes they have gone astray, including open-door immigration, rising taxes, and the failure to fully deliver on Brexit. These points serve as the foundation for his argument that the party has not only lost its way, but is now destined to become obsolete, with his movement ready to replace them. Farage's disdain for the Conservatives is made even more evident in his discussion of political integrity. He insists that when a deal is made, it should be based on trust and honor, values he claims the Conservative Party does not uphold. By referencing his decision in 2019 to stand down in 320 seats to give Boris Johnson a clear path to get Brexit done, he positions himself as someone willing to put national interest above personal or party gains. However, his bitterness is palpable when he points out that, despite this significant political sacrifice, the Conservatives did not even have the decency to say thank you. This lack of gratitude, according to Farage, is symptomatic of a party filled with low-grade human beings who lack principles and integrity. His most cutting critique centers around Brexit, an issue he passionately championed for years. He accuses the Conservatives of betraying everything Brexit was meant to achieve: securing borders, reducing immigration, cutting unnecessary regulations, and restoring national confidence. By failing to deliver on these promises, the Conservatives, in Farage's view, have not only deceived the electorate, but have also squandered the historic opportunity Brexit provided. This betrayal cements his argument that the Conservative Party is unworthy of power, undeserving of trust, and should never be allowed to govern again. Ultimately, Farage's speech is more than just a critique. It is a full-throated attack on the legitimacy of the Conservative Party. He paints them as dishonorable, deceitful, and incompetent, a party that has turned its back on the very people who once supported it. By declaring that he will never do deals with them again, he signals his intention to lead an alternative political force that he believes will replace them. In doing so, he does not merely insult the Conservatives, he dismisses them as a failed institution, one that belongs in the past rather than the future of British politics.
Secretary of State, Dame Priti Patel.
Let us be very clear. Labour's disastrous deal is one of the worst foreign policy failures in modern British history. Labour are surrendering an absolutely critical strategic defence asset, which we operate together with our closest security partner, and now we're told we've got to pay billions for the privilege of doing so. When Labour negotiates, Britain loses, and loses big time. While this House has been kept in the dark about the details, our counterparts in Mauritius, Mr. Speaker, have not. They had a robust debate in Parliament, and many of us watched it on YouTube, which was just extraordinary, where the Mauritius Prime Minister gave his Parliament a detailed account and even a chronology, Mr. Speaker, of the deal and negotiations that led to it. The details Labour have repeatedly refused to disclose to this House, and the Prime Minister of Mauritius set out in no uncertain terms that nobody should be any doubt. So this week, hapless government has backed down, Mr. Speaker, and I think this House deserves answers today.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I do have to say again to the Right Honourable Lady that it was her government, a government that she was part of, that started these negotiations, went through 11 rounds of negotiations. She knows full well the reasons why. And quite frankly, Mr. Speaker, I find it extraordinary for her to be talking about defence and national security of this country when we are having to rebuild and clear up the mess that they've made in our armed forces and in our defence. A lot of the figures that are being speculated about in the media, quite frankly, should be taken, as I said yesterday, with a pinch of salt, Mr. Speaker. We have been clear, there is no change to the substance or the quantum in relation to this agreement.
Dame Priti Patel's speech is a forceful condemnation of the Labour government's handling of a crucial strategic defence asset, which she argues represents one of the worst foreign policy failures in modern British history. Her rhetoric frames Labour's decision as a betrayal of national security, accusing them of surrendering a vital defence resource that Britain operates alongside its closest security partner, by emphasising the financial burden that comes with this agreement, suggesting that the UK must now pay billions for what was once under its control. Patel paints Labour as both incompetent and negligent in safeguarding British interests. The underlying message in her critique is clear. Labour's negotiation tactics result in Britain losing, and losing significantly. A particularly sharp element of Patel's argument is her emphasis on the secrecy surrounding the deal. She contrasts the lack of transparency in the UK Parliament with the open and thorough debate that took place in Mauritius. This comparison serves to highlight what she perceives as Labour's unwillingness to be honest with the British people. Her conclusion is particularly damning, branding the Labour government as hapless and demanding answers in the House. This statement encapsulates her broader critique. Labour is not only failing in foreign policy, but is actively weakening Britain's strategic position while avoiding scrutiny. Patel's remarks are not merely a policy critique. They are an attack on Labour's overall competence and credibility. However, Stephen Doughty's response attempts to dismantle Patel's argument by pointing out an inconvenient fact. These negotiations began under the previous Conservative government, of which Patel was a part. By reminding her that her own government conducted 11 rounds of talks on the same issue, Doughty turns the accusation back onto Patel and the Conservative Party, exposing what he sees as hypocrisy in her criticism. He asserts that Patel is fully aware of the reasons behind the deal and suggests that her outrage is disingenuous. Doughty also pivots to a broader criticism of Conservative defence policy, accusing them of leaving the UK's armed forces in a weakened state. His argument suggests that the Labour government is now in the difficult position of having to fix the mess left behind by conservative mismanagement. Overall, the exchange between Patel and Doughty is a clear example of the ongoing battle over political narratives in the UK. Patel's speech is designed to stoke public outrage by framing Labour as incompetent negotiators who have undermined British security. Meanwhile, Doughty's rebuttal exposes Conservative complicity in the very negotiations being criticised and attempts to shift the blame back onto the previous government. This back and forth reflects the deeply polarized nature of British politics, where both parties seek to rewrite history to suit their agendas while claiming to be the true protectors of national interest. Thanks for watching! If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join our Telegram community for exclusive updates.